Hi guys, good morning to all of you. So I believe I am audible to all of you.
Yes, Aaron, it's audible.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. Actually, last class was actually the recording file was not actually working, so I am conducting the same session. So there is nothing new in this session as compared to the previous one. So I'm just going over the same topics as compared to the last ones. Okay, and we will cover the same things as most of the person has not attended this session. Okay, and one more thing is that into like a creating of SAS macro variables, I did not cover a option that we have into SAS macro facility. This is a palm buff option into macros. So what it exactly do is it is actually a automatic macro variable, but as per our convenience, we can edit the value of this automatic macro variable, and as per our convenience, we can make use of it. Okay, let's see how does it work, and after that we will start with the regular function that we are supposed to do in this class. Okay, so yes, this is a that palm buff options a macro. What I exactly did is I created a macro B over here and I specified a palm buff option. What a palm buff option is, it actually activate this automatic variable sys p buff to get edited. Okay, so you have the facility to available to edit it as per your convenience. Okay, so what exactly happen is like when I pass the parameters through calling of macro b, these values of macro variables are getting transferred to the sys buff. Okay, so if you want to see the values into sys buff, you have to simply call percentage put and or percent ampersand sys buff. Okay, so over here what I did is I just assign three values, or you can say a string of values to particular macro variable sys buff. Okay, and then after that I created another do loop to get repeatedly to have these values in the output. Okay, you can do the same things like whenever you have like a group of records. Okay, or like a grouping within a data set. Suppose say if you are familiar with the three or four groups within your data, then you have to filter it out. You can pass these options with the group values, and you can after that you can make a do loop, and you know by automating you can have different type of output data sets. Okay, so let's execute it and let's see what is happening. I'm not creating any data set, so our overall the output will be in the log. So after this is the output of this line. Okay, percentage put. So values are assigned as like this, and please guys do know that this the pair of braces is also a part of this value macro variable. Okay, so when I scan this particular value using do loop, and I increment it three times, so in the first one I get a, second b, third is c. Okay, so this is also a way you can edit a automatic macro variable. Okay, so any doubt till now? Does anyone have any doubt till now?
No.
No,
Okay, okay, let's start then. We have covered different into clauses, says macros. Okay, so let's come to the quoting functions that I discussed in the last class. This is the same thing. Okay, so generally this, you know, whenever we reference many of macro variables that may contain has any three types of tokens that SAS can have. Okay, and these type of tokens are actually you know grouped together into three subtypes. Okay, in type 1 you have operators like simple addition, multiplications, or and or special signs. After that you can also add into type 1 tokens like mnemonics like and or not equal, like abbreviated forms of this comparison operators. Okay, and into this miscellaneous one we can have blank, comma, semicolon, and the pair of you know quoted commas, and or you can say the pair of braces. What exactly is that? The tokens that actually happen in pairs. Okay, so like double inverted commas or like a pair of braces. So what exactly comes into type 1? Into type 2 we have unmatched characters. This is highly used, and have the chances to get error into macro facility, so you'd have to need to take care of this one. So what is in this? Like we have unbalanced characters, like the characters we normally exist into pairs, but into this type 2 tokens we not exactly have as a pair. So as you can see over here, there is a single double inverted comma, single inverted comma, and a single pair of braces, and there's another single pair of braces. So this is not combined, this is totally different. So that's why I include some spaces over here so that you will not be confused. Okay, into type 3 we have macro triggers like ampersand and percentage signs. Okay, so just take a look at it for a while so that you will not be get confused after a while, because into every subtype we going to see compilation phases and the execution phases functions to you know handle into macro facility. Okay, so shall we move further now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's execute an example over here, and after that you will be able to see. Okay, so just come to this section, and what I exactly want to do, actually this example is come from that advanced as preparation guide. So there is a very nice explanation to these functions. So if you have any doubt after this class as well, you can take a reference from that guide as well. Okay. Okay, what exactly I want to do is I want to assign this whole string to this macro variable a. Okay, and just to clarify, if it is get assigned to this macro variable a or not, I include percentage push statement. When I execute it, as you can see over here, there is only two words get assigned to macro variable a. This is single proc and then print. What exactly happening is in the backend of like into macro processing, whenever a single semicolon get encountered, says, you know, stop this assigning value to the macro variable a. So proc print get assigned to the macro variable a, and after calling this, it it ignore the rest of the statements, and it go ahead and reference this value only to the macro variable a. Okay, this is the scene. But our target is to assign the whole value to this macro variable a. Okay, so how to do that? We have a percentage str function. What percentage str function do is, like, it masks the semicolons during the compilation phases. Okay, so what exactly happen in compilation phase is this, like when this token get, you know, reach to the macro processor, it masks these operator semicolon, and it will be treated as a normal string. Okay, so as you can see into this type 1, this is the function. Okay, I'm discussing the miscellaneous one, semicolon type 1 into the compilation phase. Okay, so after this, as you can see over here, that whole thing get assigned to the macro variable a. Okay, so there are multiple ways to have the same output. Okay, you can even mask this semicolon only, because this only semicolon is creating a problem for us. So for the particular semicolon, you can even mask this particular semicolon and get assigned to macro variable b, and then later on you can reference that macro variable over here, and ultimately when it resolved by the macro processor, it get assigned with semicolon, and it will be treated as a normal string. Okay, so if you go ahead and execute this one, you have the same output. As you can see over here, this is the same output and this is the same output. Okay, or what exactly you can do, if you don't want to assign it to a particular macro variable, you can go ahead and simply call this function like this, and you can assign, reference these semicolons like this to particularly mask any of the part of the, string or the value that you want to assign. Okay, these are the three ways that you can go ahead and assign to this one. Okay, so I hope it is clear now, as of till now, the three ways.
Yeah, it's now clear.
Okay, is there anyone else who has any doubt apart from Hanish and Deepak? Okay, so let's move further then. Okay, and there is one other another thing is in this one is that, like, whenever you are dealing with a type 2 tokens into the compilation phases, then you have to include a percentage sign, like preceding from that particular token. Okay, if you are assigning through using percentage str like this, okay, it go ahead and assign the same thing with this one. If you don't assign percentage sign preceding with this unbalanced quotation mark, then it will give you an error. Okay, okay guys, so let me ask you one question. So how would I go ahead and assign this particular semicolon, sorry, this single inverted comma to a particular macro variable, just like this I did into this case. How can I define this particular inverted semicolon to a macro variable? By using double dot. Jyoti is saying, no Jyoti, these are not library references, so we are not supposing double dot over here. It is double dot or double single inverted commas. Like text is so small. Okay, single inverted. Okay, so Kashish is saying we can write percentage let d percentage d. Yes, Kashish, you are right. You can assign like it in this way. Okay. What exactly is happening is this: you are calling a percentage str function, and as I said over here previously, that into the unbalanced quotation marks, especially in the percentage str functions, into the compilation phases, then you have to precede it with a percentage sign. Okay, then you can then later on you can, you know, you can change this whole string like this. And percentage e and then s, it will give you an error, so I have to include a dot over here. Okay, so percentage d value is Arun's session. Okay, so in through this way you can also sign, or you may can even, you know, include particular function like percentage str percentage inverted single comma and as session like this. Okay, through this way you can also sign. There are three ways. Okay, so it is clear to now all of you. It's not visible, but what is not visible, Jyoti? Okay, let me increase the font size. Okay, it's now it's fine. Okay, so take a look at it. What exactly I did. So after that we move on further. Then
Hi Arun.
Yes, Jyoti.
In last second row, you have mentioned that D is equal to Arun percentage STR percentage and single inverted comma after that S you have mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So S we have to use here or you have written.
Exactly my target is to assign this value to macro variable. Okay, so
Okay.
S is the my value that I want to assign. This is not a part. If you want to omit, you can. Okay, but it does not make any sense in the output. Like you will get like Arun single inverted comma and session.
Okay. And if we use semicolon, then we have to again like put percentage semicolon, percentage STR and semicolon again.
No, no. Exactly what is happening in this case is like as you can see the PPT. If you have only type 2 tokens, okay,
Yeah.
type 2 tokens are like which are unmatched characters like single double inverted comma or single inverted comma or any single pair, any single braces. Okay,
Okay.
so what exactly happen is this, whenever says encounter with particular a single inverted comma. Let me give an example. Maybe you guys can understand. So whenever we assign our character values to the particular variable, what exactly we do is we include that value
Yes.
into particular two inverted commas, right?
Yeah.
Or single inverted comma as per your convenience. You want whatever you
Yeah.
want. Yes, okay. So what exactly happening is like whenever says encounter with the single or double inverted commas, and then it again search for the next inverted commas. Okay,
Yes.
so that it get to know like up to here this is my value that I want to assign to this variable. Okay,
Yes.
so in this case like whenever says encounter with a single inverted comma, uh, let me remove this one. I'm not, executing it without mentioning str function because otherwise my, session will get freeze and I have to restart it. Okay, so that's why I'm not doing it. Okay,
Okay.
so what exactly happening is this, uh, says without suppose the case without str function. Okay, so says starts from Arun up to here. Okay, encounter with single inverted comma, then it again searches for another inverted comma. Okay, but it does not find it, so that it would cause an error. Okay, to omit this error and just to tell us that just treat this single inverted comma or unmatched quotation mark just as a part of string, not any specific value that as like in this case. Okay, in the only case of where you encounter with unbalanced uh, quotation marks, then you have to precede it with a percentage sign. If you have a semicolon, then you don't need it. Even if it is a pair of braces, then even you have to assign it with a percentage sign. So I hope it is clear to now. Guys, it is clear to all of you. Okay, Kashish, this is only happening in the case of where you have unmatched quotation marks. If you have the semicolon, as you can see in my previous examples, I did not mention any percentage side preceding with the semicolon. Okay. Okay then. So we have discussed our compilation phase. Okay. Let's discuss one other function and then we will discuss the compilation, sorry, execution phase of these functions. Suppose say I want to assign a value like this. Okay. Okay, so this is the value that I want to assign into the title statement. Okay, so here it is another function percentage nrstr. What exactly it do is like if we have a macro triggers in our macro variable value, if we don't want to it to resolve into a particular value, then we have to use percentage nrstr. Okay, so what percentage nrstr do is nr means over here is, let me, nr over here means is not resolved. Okay, so this is what exactly nr means, and it is quite obvious is that like into the macro facility, whatever the value is, we have to call or we have to reference, then we have to use the macro triggers percentage and the ampersand sign. So whenever we are encounter or supposed to encounter with percentage or ampersand signs, then we have to use percentage nrstr functions. Okay, so what exactly do is in the compilation phases, by passing these tokens into the macro processor, it masks this value from being resolved to any macro variable value, and it will be treated as a normal string to the macro processor. Okay, so I hope percentage nrstr is clear to all of you.
Yes.
Okay, so percentage nrstr and percentage string function, it is quite same, but the only difference is that it only masks that macro variable triggers or macro facility triggers ampersand and percentage sign. Otherwise all the things are same. If you are you know encounter with single inverted comma, then you have to again uh, you know precede it with a percentage sign. if you want to assign like this, then I have to use again a percentage sign. Okay, so the value get resolved like this. Okay, so let's move further. Okay, so I I hope you guys that you do know, like whenever I assign a particular macro variable value through passing parameters, either it is a keyword parameter or it is a positional parameter, then these values are actually get assigned during the that execution phases. Okay, so just first of all, just take a look at this code, and I will start explain after a while. Okay, so shall we start?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what exactly happening is, as you can see over here, into the type 1, I'm discussing, already have discussed compilation phases. Okay, like percentage str and percentage nr str. Now it's time to the, take a look at the execution phases. Okay, so as you guys do know, like in SAS, these two words, these two letters, like EQ means equal. This is the abbreviated form of equal. Okay, whenever we have any, get a chance, like suppose say, like in USA clients, most of the states into USA's, like even all of the states use two-letter words. Like if you are dealing with North Charleston, then you have to use NC. Okay, you have, if you are dealing with South Carolina, like this. Okay, so there are some chances, like sometimes that you may get encounter with any of these function, like OR can be treated as Oregon. Okay, suppose if you are dealing with a particular US state into Oregon. Okay, then in SAS it has a different meaning, but you don't want to, SAS treat it as a like keyword. Okay, so if you want to suppress this value, then we have to, again you have to use its percentage str function to, suppress the normal meaning of these abbreviated keywords. So what exactly I did over here is, I suppress this normal meaning of EQ by calling a percentage str function. Okay, I go ahead and assign this to particular a text macro variable. I reference that EQ, that it resolve to EQ, and then again it checked for equality. EQ equals percentage str again equal. Okay, then I'm again masking it of this abbreviated form. Then I'm starting a do loop. Okay, if this EQ equals to this EQ, then print this data, otherwise cancel my macro facility. Okay, so this is a percentage about cancel is a reserved keyword into this SAS macro facility. Whenever you want to cancel your you know macro, if you are encounter with any of the error, then SAS would not go any subsequent statements, and it will cancel your macro facility by over here. Okay, so if I go ahead and substitute this code, I get this output data. Okay, so this is your execution phases of percentage str functions. We will see different functions for the same as well. If you guys have understood this topic, then let me ask you one question. If you have understood, so is there anyone who is in doubt till now?
No, Arun.
Okay. Okay, so tell me, if I don't want to use percentage str function over here, then what exactly should I need to do to make this code run without any error? If I remove this percentage str function from here, what things I need to change in this existing code to make this code working without any error?
Well, we will be putting percentage str eq in the place of ampersand test.
Okay, so you can say like this, right? Is that what you were saying, Hanish?
No, actually, in my mind, I was putting directly str in the brackets eq. But yeah, it would also work. Percent text.
Okay, so exactly, so that's why we created a macro to reference some value. Otherwise, it will be a hard-coded value. So this is the way that you can even use percentage str function like that. Okay, to save yourself from getting any error. Okay, so I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, let me create a macro A. Okay, guys. So if I want to assign particular a kind of a macro triggers value, then I have to use percentage NRSTR. Okay. Okay. So it can go ahead and assign this value as a title without any error. Okay, so we are actually making a benefit of these compile based functions, and we are still using into this execution based as an executing based functions. Okay, so it is clear to all of you like how it is working into execution phases.
Yes.
Okay, so it is very quite easy and very easy to remember. So the things is to remember is this: whenever you have to think like that your string may encounter with percentage or ampersand sign, then you have to use a definitely a kind of function which exactly start from nr. Okay, nr means not resolved. Okay, okay, now so let's discuss percentage b code function. Let's first of all discuss percentage code function. Maybe this is going to work out. Okay, so it is working fine. Okay, so what percentage code function is do is it masks your type 1 tokens during execution. Okay, so if you go to this ppt, then you can find your type 1 tokens. Okay, during the execution phase, if you want to mask this one and want to make this value as a normal string, then you can use percentage code function. Okay, and the converse of this function I already discussed. This is the case. Okay, if you want to assign a particular value during a compilation phase, then you have a percentage str. If you want to assign these value during the execution phase, then you have a percentage code function. Okay, both are do the same thing, but the only is time is the during constraint. Okay, so difference between str and nstr. Okay, so Jyoti, the meaning of the main difference between str and nrstr is this: nr actually has most of the same functionality as an str, but it has a little bit extra functionality is this to mask ampersand and percentage sign, the macro trigger functions or macro trigger tokens. So Deepak, this is the only question like percentage code actually work during the execution phase functions, and percentage str actually work during the compilation phase. There is a bit difference than that what you need to study. Okay. So when I was actually executing this codes, then I even for a while I get surprised. Then later on I decided to left it for you guys so that you can make your own research on this, like why it is happening. Okay. And whenever I talk about particular execution based function and particularly compilation based function, then what exactly I mean to say, or these functions documentation mean to say that these function until execution and until compilation. Okay, this is not a meaning of a uh, you know execution based function is this, like it does not work into the compilation. It works through compilation up to execution. Okay, so now let's talk about. So we have discussed this semicolon previously. Now it is turned to the single inverted comma. Okay, so we have discussed single inverted comma by preceding it with a percentage sign. Now let's see how to treat it using into compilation phase, sorry, execution phase. Okay, so value get assigned like this: Arun's Sashi session, and so this is the value that exactly what I want to pass as a macro variable value. Okay, so here is the way to remember. Whenever a function that end with only quote, then you are only dealing with type 1. Okay, like where like no macro variable, macro triggers, no unbalanced quotation marks, only type 1, like and nor semicolon. Okay, this kind of values if you want to assign through to macro variable. Okay, if you think that your string may encounter with unbalanced quotation marks, then you have to use b, you have to use b. Okay, these are the execution based functions. Okay, and these are the good examples of dealing with execution based functions. So b, what exactly mean is unbalanced quotation mark. Okay, these are very easy to remember if you guys able to understand the functionality of these functions. So we have discussed percentage quote and percentage b quote. Now let's talk about percentage nr quote. Okay, so there is a little bit difference between nr quote and nrb quote, like this. Okay, so what exactly happening is B I used for this unbalanced quotation mark, and NR I use this macro trigger percentage. Okay, so it is clear to all of you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this function would not work if you have like values like this. Okay, into the into during the through reaching to the execution based function, what exactly it do is when this particular token reaches to the macro processor, it try to resolve this value. Okay, guys, just a second, I'm coming. Guys, sorry about this, like my nephew was disturbing me, so okay. So I hope this percentage NRP code function clear to all of you, right? Okay, so I was discussing a special case in this function so that you will not be confused. So this is a execution based function. So if you go over the particular this diagram, what exactly do is when this ampersand around reaches to this macro processor, okay, it try to resolve this function, try to this value, and it go again into base of execution function, and till now it already has been resolved. Okay, if I go ahead and try to execute this one, this function try to resolve this value. Let me try to execute it for you. Okay, it tried to resolve this value percent ampersand around. Okay, because it is passing through this compilation phases, and macroprocessor it exactly working into compilation phase, and this is a execution based function. Okay, but exactly during the execution based values. So maybe you are keen to interested to ask like if these values are already been assigned, then what is this a value of this function percentage nrb code? Simple this we can even use percentage nrstr function even for the same as well, and even for this unbalanced quotation mark we can even percentage sign, right? So what is the benefit of using percentage nrp code function? Can anyone make a guess? let me write it so that you are able to understand like what I'm trying to say. The same value I also can assign through this function as well. It would try to resolve these values, okay, but still there has some characteristics in these functions. So can anyone make a guess? Okay. Okay, so what exactly happen is like suppose even if my macro variable unknown is existing in my symbol tables, and even after resolving this value, and this value may contain has some unbalanced quotation mark or any other ampersand or percentage sign, then after resolving this value would not cause any error during execution phase. So that's why we are using percentage NRB code. After resolving this value may contain you know unbalanced quotation mark or another ampersand sign or any percentage sign. So after resolving this value, it would not cause any error during execution. So that's why it is used. Okay, so just remember this case. Okay, so I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay. So I have discussed all of these functions. Okay, and even their uh, you know a alternate way to do the same during the compilation and during the execution. Okay, so simple way to remember is this: whenever you are encounter with NR, then definitely you are going to work with macro triggers. If you are working with unbalanced quotation mark, then you have to use a B type of functions. If you have the combination of macro triggers and unbalanced quotation mark, then you have to use NRB functions. Okay, if you want to work with the same, then you can use percentage str functions like this. Okay, these are very easy to remember. So the only way is that just to remember like what B means, what NR means, what is the compilation phase, and what is the execution phase. Okay, and there is a another function, percentage super q. What exactly it do is it suppress these warning messages even if your macro variable is not existing in your symbol table, and if you are using or calling this particular macro variable using percentage super q, then it would not give you any error in the log file. It is basically actually used to suppress your warning messages. Okay, so now let's come to the storing of macros. So up to here I believe so that it is all clear to all of you. Okay. Okay, so storing of macros has basically three types of facility we have into macros. We have percentage include statement, then we have the autocall library, then we have stored compiled macro. Okay, so we will see different all of these three ways to do the same into macros. Okay, and guys, one more thing is that like maybe you have a answer for this one. Like whenever you have a particular string and you are defining a wrong function over here, then your SAS get freeze actually. Like it would not execute any of the code and it still accepting the codes as a file like this. Like nothing is executing and nothing is get compiled. It's it getting stored all of these values as a text into your log file. Okay, so if you have any solution for this apart from closing the SAS session again and restarting it, so please do let me know. Like into the server side, you can reset your SAS session, but into the desktop side, it would be little little hard to restart again and again. Okay, so let's start with storing of macros. Okay, so suppose say I'm writing my code into a text file like this, and I stored it as a test.txt. I close this file and I save my code into this one. Let me copy the location. Okay, so what exactly did is I reference that text file into a percentage include statement, just like your file name reference, and whatever the code it is present into this text file, it go ahead and execute this one. Okay, so as you can see, the exact code into this file was simple creating of a dataset A through sashelp.class. You, I close this file, and your dataset A exactly has been created into your work library. Okay, so this is your quite easy way to store your macros or any of your text part or coding part in your text files. Whenever the modification that you need to do, then you don't need to open that particular code into your SAS. You can go ahead and edit into your text file and you save it and again submit your percentage include statement, and it will execute that newly updated code. Okay, so this is really a quite easy way to do the same. So even if suppose say I have a folder and I have a bunches of like 3-4 text files, then it also has the flexibility to do this. You can reference multiple text files like this. You can specify multiple files like this. Okay, so whatever the codes are present in all these 3 or 4 text files that you have in a particular folder, it would go ahead execute one by one, and it will give you the result that you have according to the code that you have saved into your text files. Okay, so this is really an easy method, and this is really even a portable method. You can transfer it to your friend or even your colleague. Okay, so percentage include is, I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, so next is our autocall library. What exactly happens is in the whenever I have to define my macros, then there is a catalog get build up into my work library if I'm dealing my macros into a particular library, and the name of that catalog is SAS Macr, and there is a sub catalogs into that particular catalog, but the name of the macro that I am saving, macro A, macro B, and macro C. Okay, so these catalogs actually saving your macro codes, so that whenever you submitting only percentage %a, okay, so in my previous macro codes, I saved as it as a proc print of SAS class. Then only by submitting percentage %a, it is giving me the same result to save, writing the same code over again and again. So what exactly happening in the backend is SAS check for the macro A into the work library. It found the it enter into this catalog and find out the information that I have stored, and it go ahead and execute in the backend. Okay, so this is the normal work that SAS usually do. Okay, suppose say if I'm saving my macros into a different library and I'm calling that particular macro, uh, I want to call that macro from a different library, then I have to use auto call library facility of macros. Okay, so I hope if you guys remember, like whenever you are using proc format, then same format kind of catalog get built up in your work library, and if you want to save your format into as a permanent format, then you have to reference that formats into like SAS help or your permanently defined library. Then you also have to use fmt search option like this. Okay, what this option do is, we exactly says to do is to omit the normal function. First go to work library. If you find out the particular format, then it is okay. If you don't find it, then go to particular SAS help library. If you still don't find it my uh, you know particular format, then go to SAS user library. Okay, the normal function of you know proc format is that it go ahead and search the formats into your particular work library. If it is found, then it's okay, otherwise it would give you an error. If it is still being present into SAS help, then you have to tell SAS like after going to work, then you also have to search for SAS help as well, if you don't, in case if you don't find it. Okay, same also happen in you know autocall libraries. Okay, let me tell you how it is working. Let me build a macro into a different library. I don't know whether it is going to work or not. Okay, so that would be a different scenario. Okay, so exactly my macro is actually saving into my work library. Actually, I get forget it too. So how to save this particular catalog into? So does anyone know like how to save, how to particular create a macro into a particular library? I know it, but I forget. Mm, yeah, here it is. Okay, so what is exactly happening is this: when I'm defining these autocall libraries, so I'm going to store this macros into my particular library. Okay, so when I did not specify these options, what exactly happen is it by default store into your work library. Okay, so when I specify these autocall libraries, what exactly it do is uh, it go ahead and search for this particular library, instead of going to work, it go ahead and search for this particular macro A into SAS help class, sorry, SAS help library. Okay, this is the same like this format searching option. Instead of limited to a particular library, it go ahead and searches for multiple libraries, and it searches for particular macro and go ahead and execute this one. Okay, so let me describe these options to you. M auto source is actually activating this option, SAS auto, and SAS auto S is a library, autocall library references, like where you need to search this particular macro either into work, or you can specify multiple libraries over here as well. If you find it in work, then it's okay, then otherwise move it to the next libraries. Okay, so it is clear to all of you. Now let's talk about your storing of compile macro. Let me create a library reference first of all. Okay, so I created a blank folder over my desktop. Okay, so I need to store my macro over here. So what I need to do is, first of all, I need to define my library reference. Okay, so is this spelling mistake or guys, is this spelling mistake over here? Um, oh, sorry about this. Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of sleepy, so sorry about that. Okay, so library has created, but my macro did not store into this. It is running, but why is it not storing? Oh, just a second. Oh, I think it now it gets stored. Yes. Okay, so what exactly I did is I created a library reference, actually a folder into my desktop, and I specified this option to store a compiled macro to this library, Arun, and specify a different option store over here, just like Palm I specify a store option into macro. What exactly this macro facility by using this store function is happening is that it store this compiled macro to this facility. As you guys did notice, like without specifying these options, this get executed but not getting stored. So you have to use the store option as well. Okay, so even if you move to my particular macro folder, then there is another folder says macr. Okay, this is the same macro catalog of this abc. Sorry, let me, this folder and this folder is same. This folder and this folders are same. Says actually going to this particular location and fetch out the information, and it whatever the information that is getting pasted into the library. Okay, so even if I close my SAS session and I know that my library get library reference actually get deleted, I have to invoke my SAS again and I have to define my SAS library again. If I do it, then I will find my uh, this catalog again, and by specifying this option I can go ahead and execute the same macro. Let me try to show it to you how it is working. I'm selecting it and I'm uh, cut all my code so that I can paste it after a while. Okay, okay, so as you can guys can see over here, there is no library reference around over here. Okay, if you go to my macro folder that I created with a library reference around into SAS, then you have to there is a folder, this SAS catalog actually is still saved. Okay, you close this one, and you have to define your library reference again. Okay, go to library reference, there is a catalog still there. Okay, if you go ahead and call your particular macro, then you have the macro get executed, and there is a data set that created into work library that I define into this macro body. Okay, you can also use your proc catalog to see the details about the catalog. Okay, so into a particular library, Arun, there is a catalog SAS MACR, and the name of the macro is ABC, and the type is macro. It was created on this one and modified on this one, and there is also a description portion over here. Okay, even after, if I close my session and I invoke again, and even I specify these library options libname statement over here, then after that I will not able to, you know I will not be able to see the source code, like what exactly it is doing. Okay, so you have another two options: source and description. You can define your little bit description like this. If you go ahead and execute this one, and again run your pro catalog, as you can see over here, this description get created. Suppose say I remove this macro code. I don't know like what exactly it is present into ABC macro. I don't know. So what is the best way to run catalog? You see the entry, what exactly it is doing. If it is not created by your colleague or not created by you, then it would be really a, confusing situation. There is another way out. What is the way out is, you can see the source code, so like what exactly was get saved into your macro. Okay, so okay, so to see the source code of a particular macro, you have a percentage copy and your macro name like your ABC, and then the source option. Okay, so this is your source copy, so that what exactly it is present into your macro. Okay, this is your exactly source code. Okay, so this is all about your storing of macros, and storing little bit information about your source code and little bit about your description of your macros. This is how it is. Okay, after that there are some options to debug your SAS macro. Okay, symbol gen, mprint, and mlogic. There are some other options too. So this is, let's work it on this way. Now let's discuss this one. Okay, so just see your log very carefully. Okay, so this is the actual code that I submitted. The highlighted code into black background, this is the actual code that I submitted for execution. So I hope you guys are able to see. Okay. Okay, let's talk about different debugging options. So let's talk about first of all symbol gen. What symbol gen do is it gives you the information of a particular macro variable is and also tells you that what value exactly it turns to for a particular reference. Okay, so as you can see over here, this sys pbuff option resolve to this value percentage abc. Okay, and also this output values are abc. This comes from this statement percentage put values are ampersand sys pbuff. Okay, so symbol gen is clear to all of you. Okay, symbol gen is clear. Okay, so the easy way to remember is this symbol as mean the symbol and gen like a generation. Okay, after that you have your m logic. Okay, what m logic is actually is a your logics that currently running into your do loop. This is basically used into your do loops, and if you have your nested do loops, then it also helpful to use of mlogic in debugging of your macros. What mlogic tells you, like when the do loop starts, what exactly the value is start with, what exactly happening in this that particular duration. Okay, so let's uh, see the output of mlogic. Okay, it is saying this beginning execution. Okay, it go ahead and start this executing of these statements. It encounter with this statement. Okay, so these statements come by the symbol gen result to this value, and this value uh, values are abc. This comes actually from this statement. Okay, so now again this m logic go to this particular value statement, sorry, this do loop beginning index variable is 1 and start value is 1, stop value is 3, buy value is 1. Okay, starting value is 1, end value is 3, and the buy value is by default is 1. If I change it, the buy value also over here it get changed. Okay, so now again after that percentage let, this percentage let for the first first iteration, this value variable name is z. Okay, okay, and this sys pbuff resolve to this value, macro variable I resolve to 1, this ampersand I resolve to 1. Okay, Again, percentage put ampersand g that I included. Macro variable z result to a. Actually, this percentage scan function scan for first chunk before encountering another delimiter. Okay, so this is for particular first iteration. Okay, what exactly was happening, what values are getting resolved to. Okay, okay, and now again, now percentage do loop index as turns to 2. Like first iteration we have discussed, these statements are exactly running in the backend. For the same second iteration, it is running the same. The value turns to b, and then value turns to c into the third loop. And this after this, when the value reaches out to 4, and we have the end value is 3, it getting out of the loop, and it stop the execution. So this is overall macro that exactly get processed in the your compilation and during the execution phases. This is all about you can easily track your macros. If by default, suppose say by default, these are the three dataset names that you want to have some operations into this. Okay, by specifying these, suppose say you define like 1 to 3 over here. Okay, or any another name, then in particular third iteration it would give you an error. Okay, whenever your macro getting large, like around you know 30-40 lines, then it is very helpful for debug. You can go to particular iteration, you can particular search for the macro variable value, you go ahead and check it, like, oh, this is the mistake that I have done, you go ahead and replace these values by c. Okay, so this is how it is helpful for to debug your macro. Okay, so it is clear to all of you these options. Okay, okay guys, so this is all of for today, and actually last class recording was not working, so I have to record this video again. And this is all for within the macros. And by the next week, maybe today is 22, maybe by next week